The first poem I'll be reading today is Glass Poem Part 2. You can turn to page 56 in your books if you have it. And I wrote this 5/5/2022. I am made of glass, a figurine skating on ice. You hold up your wall. I shatter. It's a thought, just a thought, little rain cloud, growing, fat drops, big cloud, big rain, hail, thunder, lightning, and avalanche. I can't breathe, suffocated under the weight. Your words don't reach me, only the twisted echoes do, bouncing off the walls. I'll be your light, your nourishment, your crutch, and that will be enough. Falling in slow motion through the thick, clear liquid, the surface of water is glass. Everything feels like glass, and yet mine is the only one cracking under the pressure. It's thick, in the wrong direction. And the world comes crashing down, brick by brick, in a predictable pattern. I just wanted. The looking glass is the contact point. That is the disconnect. I just want. An ever-retreating deer galloping through the woods, leaving a trail of footprints. I just want. You don't get it. Wall after wall slams down in front of me. You can't understand. Slam. No one understands. Crash. I just want bang. Don't leave me hanging by a thread. Implicit in your silence, an accusation. Don't leave me sitting on the roof, wielding the frigid air like a whip, while your cold words are the sharp knife in my back. Don't leave me. Or do. It doesn't really matter. I'm just so selfish. Nobody should care about me. It's only fair that no one does. My lips turn blue with the tide and I grin. Welcome to paradise. Fragile breaths on the window. I'm slumped against it, limp. I don't want to move. I don't want to do anything. I don't want anything. Just leave me to rot. Alright, the next one is on page 31. It's The Eye of the Storm, and this was written 4/16/2022. Here, in the quiet clearing, the green grove where the rabbits gallop through, where the bees and the butterflies lazily rest on flowers, where the gnarled and twisted tree roots seem to move out of your path. Sorry, my bad, excuse me. Wordless apologies and promises. Where the whispering winds move through the trees in just the right way to give off the impression of swaying leaves without affecting the light. And the light, oh the light, magnificently shining onto the ground, where the white rays of sunshine meet the gurgling brook, imperceptibly heated in a moment, yet left untouched until the animals drink it to cool themselves, like the golden ambrosia of the gods. Here in the eye of the storm, searching fruitlessly for a safe path through, I cut through the leaves and scoff at its beauty, caught in a moment of clarity among a sea of turbulence, always looking forward to the next disaster, never stopping to wonder if that was the last. Be still, my beating heart, and lie here in the lush green grass. Let your worries melt in the slow, sluggish tree sap, and your fears crumble with the crinkling autumn leaves, without worry of the clouds overhead. A fleeting and negligible chance of rain here is not worth wondering for. For you've reached the peak, it's smooth sailing from here, nothing but the endless azure sky to guide you forwards. But it is forwards you must go. You cannot stay in the clearing forever, dear, for its warm embrace is but a pause. Rest for a while, watch the birds overhead, and smell the fruit in the trees, and then move through to the other side, to the cavernous world, keeping the memory of this place with its calmness close to you, to be conjured at the right moment. Alright, this one's called Star Child. It's the first interlude. It's on page 22. An angry, frustrated air simmers around me. It pops and fizzles while the dying starlight enters the window. See how it hits the floor and casts its long shadows over me. An imitation, a projection of itself. See how it reaches a fever pitch, boiling point, a hotness of breath on my skin. See the ghost stand over me, a silver silhouette in the shape of a man. He holds the knife, the frame, the heart. He is the glazier who measures my thoughts, but the shades are drawn and he is gone. An echo lingers in the soft summer air. The stars illuminate the room through the cracks of the wall, imperceptibly miscalculated to everyone but their creator. And on the other side, reunion patiently waits. Throw aside the sheets and answer the knocks at the door, and fill the empty spaces that lay about. Fill them up with the silvery liquid, the color of hope. Little holes filled with the embers of starlight. The star child is the bucket filler, the tireless worker, the slave. The window mocks me. All right, this next one is on page 51. It's Rainbow Rain, and it was written 5/2/2022. There is a mural on my skin, where each tangle of hair, each small and unnoticeable mark tells a story, and each person adds their own stroke of paint. But in the end, only I choose how the colors blend. I can leave my own stroke on others. I'm not a painter, though. I cannot knead people like dough, but instead build them from sand in my mind. Colorless to me, but when they fall, boom, 100 hues come exploding out. Rainbow rain. You can get a glimpse of it in others. They watch the equal showers while you stand under an umbrella. You are but an outside observer that understands a fraction of the drops. I get out from the awning, expecting the inevitable burning sensation, the inevitable conversion to hot and sticky oil, and I find none. Instead, I am left there in the pleasant downpour. Plip-plop droplets, the pitter-patter patter, an untraceable, intricate dance. I like rain. All right, this is the last poem. It's Sunset Relapse. It's on page 39. And it was written 4/22/2022. Honey-dipped horizon, a magical moment when the breeze ceases to exist and warmth seems to radiate from the earth. Emptiness, indescribable hunger. I can feel every ounce of the heavy weight around my ankle. This is so very painful. The thought comes through despite protest. I deserve this. It's better this way. I want to scream. I want to shout. I want to tear at myself. It's all so wrong. I'm supposed to feel better. I'm supposed to be better. I'm supposed to. Everything was fine. Nothing even happened today. So why? Walking on glass. My stomach is a warm, hot thing. So alive, skin and flesh and all of it perfectly intact. It fascinates me. Every thought drives me deeper in. Am I scaring you? How many people am I really hurting when I think I'm just hurting myself? I pick up the pen and write about all of the things, but at some point the ink turns white, useless scratching against the paper that's being analyzed. How am I supposed to keep being honest this way? Honey-dipped horizon, falling slowly behind the curtain for the moon to rise. Night, once a solace, now a wicked twisting of things. Can a happy dream be a nightmare? If I could just get over myself. I can't. I'm better. I've been better, but all of a sudden like a deer caught in the headlights. Am I scaring you? Please tell me. Please let me know what I can do to fix it. Tell me how to fix myself, how to sew myself back together, how to glue my broken brain that thinks all the wrong thoughts and does all the wrong things. How am I supposed to do Spanish when every thought spirals away from my control? How am I supposed to feel better when really I just ignore my problems and hope they go away? How am I supposed to live this way? Am I supposed to live this way? Sitting on the couch with a knife in my hand, I was so close. Am I scaring you? Because I don't know what to tell you anymore. I should just disappear. My heart beats louder than everything else. I'm a coward. Emptiness, indescribable hunger. Flesh, smooth and malleable, looks so fragile in the sunlight. Sharp, short breaths, crazed, rambling avenues and alleys my mind wanders into, corners and crevices that have been hiding flood out like a spider after the rain. I regret writing this poem, and yet I keep writing. I regret living in the first place, and yet I keep. She loves me, she loves me not. 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 Let's take a tour through me. Let you peek under the rug and behind the curtain. See the disjoints, the jumps and missing pieces like a broken record. Go between them like changing the station on the TV. Weak and weary legs as you walk down the stairs, endlessly deep and long. I want to scream writing this, Not cathartic anymore, just another suckling leech, giving blood instead of taking it. Tainted blood, depression blood. Long streaking lines line the walls. At the bottom I'm in a cage. I'm in a cage and I'm holding a key and I'm trying to get rid of it, and you can't get close, and I don't want you to get close, and I don't want anyone to get close. All the bad bubbling to the surface, and I can't even cry. I feel like I've broken some barrier, some invisible and unspeakable rule. Something bad and wrong is going to happen, I think. I'm so unsure, so unsteady on my feet on the uneven ground. No more glass, it irritates me. No more metaphors, they irritate me. Only dark thoughts and wrong thoughts. Digging my own grave and lying down in it, and I'm asking you to bury me and you won't. It's so exhausting. More exhausting than anything imaginable. Every moment becomes an hour. I've betrayed everyone. I've lied to everyone. And nobody will like me anymore. A bitter and secret hatred is hatred all the same. My name is Colin Parrott, and I'd like to start with a disclaimer. The experiences I'm sharing tonight are my own. I'm not providing medical advice, and this event is not a substitute or replacement for speaking with a doctor, therapist, or medical professional. For legal and liability reasons, I am unable to answer questions pertaining to your specific treatment plans, options, pharmaceutical prescriptions, holistic or herbal remedies. Representatives from Project Hope and NAMI-OC are available throughout the evening, and resources can be explored by visiting their table. All right, I'd like to start by giving a little background on how this book was started. So I wrote the first poem when I was in New York on a trip for Model United Nations. And I was walking through the city on one of my bad days, and I took out my phone, and I was like, I should write. So I wrote in my notes app the first poem, Glass Poem. It took me a whole day to write, and I showed it to my friends. And I found it to be a very cathartic experience, just to get my feelings out. And so I kept writing, and after about 3 poems, I started sharing them with my mom, and from there, eventually, she just kind of suggested it should be a book, and I was like, yeah, it should be a book. So you'll notice every poem is dated, and that was significant because I decided I wanted to have this be a chronological journey. I wanted this to show kind of, 3 months of my life and how it kind of affected me and how it was not really linear. It was up and down. You can see a lot of the poems have very dark tones, but then some of them are happier. So, good days or bad days. So after I wrote the first few poems, I decided to start sharing the poems with friends. So I shared them with friends in New York, and I was also sharing them on a messaging app, and that kind of inspired them to write some poetry. And I started a poetry channel. Some people were writing about similar things. A lot of my friends were going through the same things at the same time as me, so it was kind of an interesting experience to be able to get it out and kind of have people both look at your poems and share them.
So I think that you are brilliant, and I think that you are brave. I want to just tell you that, and I just want to know if you have a follow-up. Are you going to write more?
So I've been writing more. This book has 32 poems, and since I've written 32 more poems. So I'm still writing, sometimes daily, sometimes every couple days, and I've gotten a lot more experimental with my poems recently. I don't necessarily know if I'll be publishing a second book, but I think it's definitely a possibility. Not off the table. So I'll always start with an idea. And sometimes it'll be a couple ideas that I kind of merge into one poem, and it's always like 1 or 2 lines, and then I'll just expand from there. Yeah.
Do you edit a lot, or does it kind of just come out?
Some of the poems, yes, some of the poems, no. So a lot of the early ones were very raw, unedited. Literally, the moment I put a word down on the page, I wouldn't change it, no matter how much I wanted to. Later poems, I did edit a lot, and a couple poems didn't even make it into the book, just because of either I didn't like how they turned out, or they just didn't really fit with the tone of the book. They were more mundane poems.
I don't know if this is really a question. I just thought it was really well done, or that you sort of took a chance in in ending on not like a happy necessarily note, but realistic, because this is life, right? Or is that what you think? Or
Yeah,
do
so
you have any
what
things?
said to me
Go ahead.
afterward, I fought with my mom a lot about this. From the very early stages of part 2, part 3 was slated to be called Joy or Hope or something, more happy, I guess. But the longer I went on, I'm like, that's not how I want to end it, you know? That's just not honest or truthful to how I want to write these poems, you know? And just, yeah, I agree with you that it's more realistic this way. The last poem I originally gave in, and I was like, okay, this is going to be happy. And then when I sat down to write it, it was one of my bad days. So I'm like, you know, that kind of fits.
Colin, this is so brave of you to share this journey. I think it's very inspiring. Couple of questions. How do you feel today?
Definitely better now. The past few weeks have been good weeks. Today is good.
And if you think back through this journey, what are the 3 most significant things that helped you through this journey?
Definitely having friends that, you know, were going through the same thing and were able to support me on that was one of the most important things. My mom was there despite all of the arguing and quarreling. She was definitely a big support and was there to just, you know, help me, and family, I guess, as a Nami person said. Family is definitely one of the most important things, to just be there, and not even necessarily where you can help, because oftentimes you can't help, but just to know, for them to know that you're there, you know? Just to know that you have someone that you can go to, always. And then for the third one, I guess just the poems themselves were very cathartic. Like I said, and like I say in the afterword, that's really my goal with this book, for everyone to find something that's an outlet for them, that they can use to kind of improve themselves and get their feelings out, whether it's art or poetry or whatever, really.
I have a question and a resource I wanted to share. Did you find, in addition to the healing with the poetry, that you needed mental health professional support as well, or did the poetry provide kind of a cathartic and healing journey?
Yeah, so my therapist is actually here now. I'm not sure where that is. Hello.
Okay.
And so yeah, she definitely helped me a lot, and just having professionals is definitely an important thing for me. I don't know necessarily everyone needs that, but
Right.
for me it was a very helpful experience, yeah.
I was also going to share, during COVID, I volunteered on the crisis text line, where people text in and you get kind of an hour's therapy and get brought from a kind of a hot moment to a cool, and then next steps. And we had, probably in a 48-hour period, about 45,000 texters. So for people to your age, some people, the texting is a really good resource, you know, if they don't want to see somebody in person. But thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely texting with people helped me too. That's like the messaging app that I was sharing my poetry on.
Mm-hmm.
That's people that I was kind of reaching out to over text, and it's a lot easier to communicate over text than
Right.
speaking, I found.
Did you feel better after you wrote, say, for example, that worst low point?
A lot of the time it helped, but then other times it didn't. So like as you saw in that one, I even have a line. I have the line, not cathartic anymore. So sometimes the poems were more like they brought out my feelings. And at that point, I kind of just had to recognize that and stop writing, you know, and be like, okay, I'm going to stop now. This is not working right now, so I need to find an alternative.
I have a question for all of you. I find that people who need help the most sometimes don't know how to ask for help. So my question is, how did you begin the conversation with your family? And then for all of the three professionals here, what do you encourage people to do to ask for help?
All right, I guess I'll start. So, my initial experience was I really didn't know how I was feeling, or that it was something more than just being sad occasionally, until the first night, which was like a Sunday in March, a couple weeks before the MEM trip, and I hadn't been working on a paper, like a 10-page paper that was due, and I just realized, and I had my first real like breakdown where I was like in my room, you know, really having self-harming thoughts for the first time. And that, the next morning, I didn't get much sleep, and then the next morning was when I really asked. I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, I think this might be something more than me just being sad occasionally. I think this might be something clinical.
As parents of you, you've always been very open, kind of an open book, just like me, right? Very, very open. Everything's on the table. And I think one of the hard things for me was how you would completely shut down and and I want to hear like what your thought process was during this, but basically like Dad and I, what was hardest I think for us to see is you would, I don't know how else to explain except that you would totally shut down, not feel like you could talk about any of what you were feeling inside. And it was like I didn't even recognize you. It was like you weren't my kid. I would look and your eyes would be like empty, and it was like not like you weren't there, and we couldn't reach you. And the poetry is how you were able to tell me what you were feeling inside, but you couldn't say it. You couldn't talk about it, and we had always been able to talk about everything. I know you've kind of expressed to me some of why. And I want to hear it in your words, like why you couldn't ask for help more, tell everything you were feeling inside, how that continued certain thought processes. I want you to talk a little bit about that. Some of the things you talked about, why you couldn't talk about it, why you couldn't put it on us. And after that, how has therapy started helping you shift that some? Beyond just medication? So 2 different questions.
All right, so to start, I guess, the question about what the thought process was. I mean, a lot of these conversations took place on the couch, and I'd just be sitting there, and before depression, it was really hard for me to understand what they meant when they said depression demotivates you. But what it really means, it's to the point where I couldn't even speak. Like I was so unmotivated and so just exhausted to do any motion that I would sit there on the couch motionless, thinking instead of speaking. And at some point it just became where I would think I was speaking, but I was really thinking. It was like, you know, I couldn't say the words, I could just think them. And almost every thought gets turned into a negative, no matter what it is, no matter if it's a compliment, no matter if it's anything. It becomes a negative thought, and it destroys any ounce of motivation you had to do anything. And so, yeah, that's, I guess, a better explanation of why I was not able to open up. And the poetry and texting, like I said, always helped, because you don't have to speak. You can turn those thoughts into words without needing the motivation to open your mouth and actually vocalize it. And then your second question was, how has therapy helped to improve that communication?
To shift that. Well, no, I meant to like more to shift that, the negative thinking.
Yeah, so therapy definitely helps with that. It's just by experience. I guess a lot of it was just me changing my own thinking. I had to change my own mindset. I had to realize when I was having negative thoughts and change that and kind of realize, okay, these are negative thoughts. They're not warranted. These are ridiculous. I need to fix that. And the therapist kind of helps you realize that often, where, you know, you're having those thoughts and you're vocalizing them to the therapist, and then they're like, well, that's ridiculous. Why are you thinking that, you know? And so that definitely helped just to kind of get me out of that mindset and train me to be more positive with my thoughts, I guess.
Well, if you haven't figured it out, I'm kind of going through the same thing that you are. And I feel like that these poems made me a little bit scared because, well, they were exactly what I was feeling, the exact feelings. Well, kind of reading them kind of like made me think about like my own sort of like form of art. I've been actually just like stewing it up in my brain, haven't committed to it yet because like the lack of motivation, that kind of stuff. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, Colin, is that, well, your poems, they kind of do help. Thank you for that. And honestly, when this all started, I wish I was there for you, dude. I wish I was there to support you. Because I know it's hard. It really is. And I've been trying to fix it in my own way. We all have our different ways of trying to figure this out. And thank you. I mean, every time I see you in school, you seem perfectly fine. You seem so happy. But deep down inside me, I kind of feel like that there is something a little bit more. I kind of feel like that there's kind of like this mask that is put on you, and especially for me. I have these, in my, like metaphorically, two masks. I have just think about it as like the mask of acting, the happy and the sad mask. Well, usually I want to keep that sad mask on to show what I'm actually feeling. But occasionally there's something on my back that just puts on the happy mask. And I feel like that's occasionally happens to you at school. You act so happy, you always act like nothing's wrong. And from what my experience is, nothing is really like okay at this moment. We're all screwed up in our own way. I mean, we went through a quarantine. We went through not being in school for 2 years. That's crazy, and we all were inside thinking about our own emotions. And then when the world came out, nothing was fine anymore. I guess, again, what I'm trying to say with this is that after, I guess, the beginning of the school year, when I'm actually starting to feel these things, and when you started to feel these things, I kind of wish that I was there for you while you said that you're going through this, instead of acting like everything is going to be fine with you. Because now I realize that it's just not fine, just keeping it quiet. You gotta speak out in some way. And I'm really glad that these poems are your way to speak out. And I've tried my ways to speak out with my parents, and I've been doing a good job. At least I think I have been doing. But there are some things I still want to get out. At least stuff that I can't say because I'm not the best at speaking, as you can tell. At least out loud. So I'm really happy that you found your way to speak out. I'm really happy that this is at least helping you in some sort of way. And if you ever need to talk, ever, kind of cliche, but I'm there for you, man. I'm always there for you. Even when occasionally it doesn't look like it, I will do my absolute hardest to make sure that my best friend is okay. I love you, Colin. Always will.